Hey friends, today I want to show you something powerful about the life of Moses. Something most people overlook. Before Moses ever stood before Pharaoh, before the plagues, before the Red Sea, God trained him for 40 years in the very same wilderness he would later lead Israel through. And that wasn't an accident. It tells us something about how God prepares us. Moses grew up in a strange place emotionally. He was raised like an Egyptian prince, but he was born a Hebrew slave. He belonged to both worlds, and at the same time, he didn't fully belong in either. And that tension shaped him. God often prepares leaders through those in-between seasons, the places where you understand both suffering and privilege, both power and weakness. Moses had all of that built into his story. But Moses tried to step into his story long before his character was ready. When he killed the Egyptian, he was trying to be a deliverer, but in the wrong way, at the wrong time, and with the wrong strength. And instead of Israel embracing him as a leader, they pushed him away. So Moses fled to Midian. He went from a royal staff to a shepherd's staff, from influence to obscurity, from palace halls to open desert. Those 40 years in obscurity were not punishment, they were preparation. Exodus 3 says, Moses led the flock to the far side of the wilderness, meaning deep desert, remote land, places few people knew how to navigate. During those 40 years, Moses learned where water hides beneath the sand. He learned the rhythms of the heat and the shade. He learned safe paths through the rugged terrain. He learned how to guide stubborn animals that don't want to follow, how to defend the vulnerable ones, and how to lead when no one is applauding him. Israel was a flock before they were a nation, so God gave them a shepherd before he ever gave them a leader. And here's the beautiful part. Everything Moses learned in obscurity is everything he would need when he led Israel out of Egypt. His quiet years were not wasted years. Then the moment comes. Moses sees the burning bush. God doesn't call him out of the wilderness. God calls him in the wilderness, the same wilderness he's been walking for decades. When God speaks from the burning bush, it's as if he's saying, Moses, you know this land. You thought this was exile, but I've been training you. Everything you learned out here is exactly what my people will need. What looked like a long detour was actually a master-level course in leadership. The terrain Moses walked alone would become the terrain he walked with an entire nation. And what looked like rejection was actually repositioning. When the time came, God used every part of Moses' wilderness to shape him into the man who could lead an entire people out of bondage. Nothing God allows in your life is wasted. Your wilderness may feel like isolation, delay, or being forgotten, but God may be preparing you to lead someone else through the exact terrain you're walking right now. The wilderness that humbles you becomes the wilderness you help someone else survive. Moses wasn't rejected, he was repositioned, and God used every step of his wilderness for a purpose. Stay roaming, rooted, and radiant.